All right, let's take a look at that. So this is going to be a second lap hot lap. You just can't get enough speed on that first lap, in my opinion. So we're going to be not going too softly on the first lap. You just want to drive your first lap almost normally, except don't push anything, don't slide any tires, don't overheat things. Just run the first lap a little bit normal, and then as we're coming to 3 and 4 of the first lap, we are going to be running the very outside of 3 and 4. So I'm going to be talking about this more when we get to 1 and 2, the next corner. But the key to running right by the wall here is to never look at this wall. Look at how the wall is always changing. Scary, scary, scary. Looking at the wall is just too hard to run up here. What I like to do is look at this seam. The seam is a much better reference point for running the right next to the wall than the actual wall itself. So I'm looking at this seam the entire time, just making sure that this seam right here never goes past like right here on my car or something like that, maybe like right there. But this kind of area where the seam is lining up with this part of my car is like the sweet spot for me. And I'm not even looking at anything else on the track besides that seam. And then in my peripherals, I kind of pick up that the corner's straightening out, so I'll just straighten out my wheel when it needs to. And now this trick right here is worth a few hundredths of a second. You don't want to get to the apron right away to cut because you're going to like cut too much, or your angle is going to be too much, so you're going to lose momentum. What you want to do is you want to cut the apron at like the last second and just kind of just barely get there in time. So we get there and I'm kind of just hugging the grass a little bit, and then since we're running the top in 1 and 2, I'm not worried about how early or late I get up to the wall because I don't have to like make this big swing back down or anything. I just need to make sure that by the time the safer barrier starts, I am aligned with the wall. Okay, so now we'll go more into it of how to run the top. So in particular here, I blip the throttle just a little bit just to get the car to turn. And this is literally just down to like 80% and back up almost instantly. This isn't doing anything. Like I'm fast enough to make this corner as is. Like in theory, you can full throttle it. But just that little jolt of getting off throttle and back on the throttle usually makes the car rotate in a way that makes it running the top easier. So I do that, and then once again, I am just, all I'm doing is lining up this seam with this area of my car. That's pretty much it. And you can find that yourself when you run the wall. I'm just full throttle, keeping my car lined up with that part of the seam, and that's it. If the seam is going too far one way, I turn my steering wheel more. If it's going too far this way, I start opening up the wheel. You see how I'm a little bit too low now, but it's fine because it's the exit of the corner, so now I just know I can straighten out my wheel. One tiny tip to gain speed is you want to straighten out your wheel as early as possible. So sometimes I do like to cut down exit just so I can let go a little earlier. ARCA doesn't feel wall arrow too much, but it does feel momentum and scrubbing speed by using the steering wheel. So I just like to open it up as early as possible. Okay, 3 and 4, I tested top and bottom. The top is about half a tenth slower than the bottom, but you have to do the bottom right. So this is going to be actually a lot harder than 1 and 2, even though 1 and 2 looks really hard. So we are going to be trying to late apex here. So coming down and late apex and coming straight back up. We're going to be loose the whole time. We just go from full, and then as we come down the track, we go to half throttle, and then we just hold that half throttle until we get our late apex. And then right before we hit the apex, you can see I'm kind of lined up to drive through the apron right now, and you're like, that's not very good, is it? You're going to hit the apron. Well, if you go full throttle slightly before you get to the apron, it makes your car flush with the white line, and then you can just drive straight off the corner. Just drive straight back up to the wall from the late apex, and you're able to carry your speed. And then again, you can go early down to the apron this time because we're not worried about the speed after the start-finish line, just coming to it. We'll take a look at that one more time. So start by the wall, start turning down gradually but early, half throttle, just gradually make your way down to the bottom, and then full throttle right before the apex so that you can go flush with the white line. And then you drive the car pretty much just as straight as possible up to the wall so that you don't step out your rears. And then get back down to the apron and you get a good lap time. All right, very good. Now let's go take a look at the long run. All right, now let's go take a look at the long run. So as you saw, the top is very good at Chicago, but usually how it goes at Chicago is that you don't want to use the top until you have to because you're going to end up using a lot of tire. So I'll show you the line that you want to run for maybe the first 15 to 20 laps if possible. So I'm going to be using brake on my corner entry a little bit to start out with, and it'll get more as we go along. And this is something that we had not seen in the qualifying run in 3 and 4, especially when we run on the bottom, because you don't really need to. But at Chicago, I just like to get a little bit of rotation on the brake and then get down here. You'll see that this is a lot slower than my best lap, so maybe that was a little bit of an underdrive. You might need to push the car for like the first 3 or 4 laps, but that trail brake is going to start coming into play very, very early. At the very least, you don't want to be overdriving your corner entries. So what do we want to be aggressive on, and what do we want to be saving? So we want to be aggressive on our throttle point in the center of the corner, but we want to be saving the load that we put on the car on corner entry. We'll see. So 4/10 is probably a little bit too much saving there. You're probably going to get taken advantage of. So when you're at the beginning of the race, feel free to run this top line if you need to. Just know that if you use it too much, you're going to be not having a lot of stuff to work with at the end when everything goes up top. You'll see that I'm already pretty worn in terms of tires. This stuff isn't really working. I just like a little bit of a brake drag into turn 3, just let the car go where it wants to go. And yeah, this is right here is about where I want to be in terms of my best lap, so now I'll switch it back over to session last lap. Turn 1, you just want to maybe not even trail brake for the beginning of the run. Just make sure that you get all the way off the gas for an instant just to get that car to rotate. About a 10th worse than the high side. And 3 and 4, I really, really like just little brake tap, late apex it, full throttle, get the car on the right rear, just drive it off the corner straight. You'll notice I'm not using the apron. I believe that the apron adds tire heat and wear to the tires, and it's just not a good idea to use it every single lap, if ever. Use it if you have to, but never use it when you don't have to. So when are we going to be going up top? It depends on the race. You're going to see a lot of people jumping up top. If people are jumping up top in 3 and 4, then that kind of tells you that they might be taking it a little bit too aggressively. Because you'll see here that it's not that much better to go to the top in 3 and 4 compared to the bottom. 1 and 2, the difference you'll see is a little bit more pronounced. You see I'm not going all the way to the top. I'm just making sure that the car is handling neutrally before I go that close to the wall. So you'll see that the difference in 1 and 2 is a lot more than 3 and 4 between the top and bottom. So a good hybrid line is to run top of 1 and 2, bottom 3 and 4. That kind of helps you not get taken advantage of while still saving your tires sometimes. So I'll show you that one more time. I'm going to try close to the wall here. So keep your eyes on the seam, let off a little early, and get on the throttle, and make sure to unload the wheel as early as possible. So you see, that was even a little slow there. Probably because I slowed down a little bit too much. Let's go back to the bottom. The bottom might start becoming good right now. You notice me a little bit loose there. We're trying to do whatever we can to wear the tires evenly because you're going to need both tires to rip the wall at the end of this run. Alright, we'll do one more lap after this one and we'll go check our tires. It's all about just finding whatever time you can to save your tires by running the bottom and not turning your wheel too much. And then when it's time to go, when you want to make up spots, maybe 15, 20 laps to go, and you go up top, and you just rip it on the outside. And now we're going to make up back all that time. So it's going to be tempting to move up there, but it's kind of like a game of chicken, who moves up there first. It's a little harder in 3 and 4. I really do like the bottom of 3 and 4. The wall is just so much more easy to ride in 1 and 2 because you can set up a little wider and it helps. So I really will probably be sticking to the top 1 and 2, bottom 3 and 4 method. But anyways, we ended on 95. 95, that's exactly what we're looking for, and we'll probably be set up for the rest of the run very well. and probably push it up top when everything starts getting a little crazy, when you have to start defending stuff. Alright, thank you all for watching. Hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope to see you all on the track.